So I was reading, as I do every morning, and I noticed an interesting article on Inman, and it's talking about the four kinds of real estate coaches. And I think that coaching is going to be a big thing in 2023 because people are slowing down and like always looking for what the new thing is to get them over that hump, right? So they talk about it, and the number one kind of coach is a recruiter. So this is the coach that brokerages use as kind of the carrot to lure people in. Like, oh, we've got, this brilliant coach who's going to make you $9 million or whatever, come to us.
They often wear red.
They do. They do. And so and it even says in here, their method is to attract agents to their team, brokerage, or downlines.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is what you always hear with the red or the orange and blue is, or I have so many people in my downline and these are my different levels of whatever. But it's funny because it says in reality, their way of making money off of agents that they coach is through the recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the second kind is the retainers that the brokerages use to retain their agents. So when an agent starts talking about making a move, well, you should go in coaching with this person, as a kind of sweetener to get them to stay. And then you've got revenue focused coaching, where they take a split out of your deals.
Right.
So, which I think can be good because both parties are motivated.
Right.
But, I just also.
But I think outside of our world, like not someone that's not in our world is probably more ideal.
Oh, for sure, for me.
Yeah.
And then there's the real deal coaches that you are actually just paying a fee to. And, those are the ones that I would say are not always in our industry.
Yeah.
And they say the pros to that are your results show up sooner and are longer lasting, as this type only has one real goal, and that's to help you.
Yeah.
So do you think, and have you in the past used coaches, and what has your experience been?
So yes. So I've used coaches. So when I was mainly in DC, we did a lot of coaching in DC. And I feel like the coaching that I did in DC was just I still go back to that coaching, and I still go back to that coaching for a lot of different things. When I came here, and I was in a different world, I was in commercial real estate, very different world, very different even commercial world than what the commercial is here.
Texas commercial.
Right. Very, unless you're like in Austin or Dallas, like it's just very, very, very different. So the first few that you mentioned give me the icks, like immediately give me like the, no, like there is a specific team that keeps messaging me, and it's a bot that's texting me, right? But you should have someone managing your bot too. And I'm like, if you don't have someone responding to someone that you clearly are trying to go after repeatedly, then you are of no use to me at all. Not that I would ever think about joining their team, but every once in a while it's fun to just have those conversations for entertainment.
Well, and it's fun to see what's out there.
Right. And so I get the biggest one is probably the first two, the recruiting, because it's so scripted, and it's so like all the beginning conversations are so scripted, and so like, let's sit down and talk about your business goals. I'm like, nope. And then the second one is the internal coaching. I don't love that model, and I think there's a difference between having a mentor at your business, which is your mentor, which is someone that you can rely on, someone that you can mastermind with, someone that digs deeper with you.
Right.
That's very different from coaching. And coaching to me is very surface level. And if I have to hear the same things over and over like boilerplate, you are not helping me.
Mhm.
And most of those internal coaches are not producing. And so for our world, for our industry, right? They're not producing. They're not seeing real world issues. They're not fighting it. They're not doing the dirty shit that I'm doing
Mhm.
for like through the trenches with this client, like trying to work it. They're sitting in an office being like, okay, like you said
Right.
your goal this quarter was going to be this. It equals this many calls and this many emails. Like, fuck you. Like, like
That's
I'm
exactly how I feel about it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're not doing what I'm doing. I spent 4 hours on the phone figuring out redemptive rights. I didn't have the time to do desk duty.
Mhm.
Like, I don't uh it gives me the strong like you can like do better. Like
Right.
you can be better, you can do better. And it works great for some people. It does not work for my personality
Mm-mm.
because I'm like, you don't get it. You are missing the mark. You are baseline. You don't see the future. You don't see the difference between like having a goal to hit 5 transactions a month versus why do I need 5 transactions a month? Like you don't
Right.
see that and you don't care
Yeah.
because most of the coaches are driven by that person's revenue. So however many people are in their coaching, they've got this pool of people that they're coaching and they get paid off of their success. So all they're going to do is constantly berate you. And I just don't feel like that is maybe to me would not be effective because that's like micromanaging,
Right.
but you're not effectively helping me. And I think when agents they get trained in that brain, right? So, but when I think when agents when the light clicks, they're like, "Oh, I have been the source of my own success
Mhm.
because I'm the one who brought idea A, B, and C. I'm the one who succeeded in doing this, that, and the other."
Right.
And I think that's when it becomes insignificant. And you can go to the 10X conferences and get all this like warm, fuzzy confidence
Mhm.
boosting stuff. And we do need that. As humans, we need that. But I don't feel like, especially the first two, are at all where
Right.
I would want to be.
No.
And
Absolutely not.
I mean, I think I called you about this one company that is like a cloud based that Kate was coming after me and
Mhm.
wanted me to be the broker in the Waco temple area. And I would have my downline. Um, and they are based out of Dallas. And they kept telling me, you get to pick your commission structure and all this other stuff. All fine and good,
Mhm.
whatever. But when she started talking, there was a lot of things to me that I was like, that's so interesting. And it made me
Like interesting or interesting like,
no, like
"Ooh, I'm secretly judging you because
yes.
that gives me the icks."
Yes,
Yeah.
the second because she started saying stuff like, the market's slowing down and all this other stuff um and I don't remember what it is, but I said to her, I said, "So, I'm not judging anybody off of their own success. Your success in your business is you
Mhm.
created. It's not you versus me. It is what I want for myself, right?" And so, but I asked her, she told me what the cap was, and to me the cap was low. And she said, "Well, most agents aren't hitting it." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I was like, "What do you mean they're not hitting it? You're in Dallas. Like, why are they not hitting it? They
Mhm.
should be like slam dunking it.
Right. Like,
All
first
agents should,
quarter, it's
yeah,
done.
like
Yeah.
first deal. Like, you should be done, son." Like,
Mhm.
and she told me that her top producing individual agents were closing about 5 million a year and that her teams were closing 15. And I was really quiet. And it's never a good thing when I get really
No. No,
quiet.
me neither. That's a danger zone
And
for sure.
she goes, "That's impressive, isn't it?" And I said, "Well,
No.
it would depend on your scale of what you find impressive." And she goes, "Well, what does that mean?" I said, "Well, do you know my metrics or do you not know my metrics?" And she said, "Well, we've looked into you and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not sure where you're getting your metrics. Um, because I close over 15 million as an individual agent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take credit for my team.
Mm-hmm.
They deserve every bit of credit for themselves.
Right.
And she got quiet and I said, I just don't think I'm the fit for you. I wasn't going to go there anyway, but I
Yeah.
was just, they offer all these, it's the tokens, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, KV Core, oh, website, oh, this, oh, that,
All the things
all the
that
shiny
agents don't
things.
even use. Like we
But-
have KV Core. There's 2 agents in my office that log in even once a week to KV Core.
It's just shiny shit, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
shiny shit that agents want to see that the brokerage has. And people say, I wish my brokerage offered more, but they don't give good suggestions for what that actually might be. What does that look like to you? Oh, well,
Right.
accountability. Like, you're a grown-ass adult. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a to-do list. I am accountable to that.
Right.
Like, I'm accountable to my children. I'm accountable to my husband. But, like, this is my to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, those first 2, clearly, as I'm passionately speaking about it, give me the strong icks.
Yeah. No, they for sure do to me also.
And you've
what's
come
funny,
through that world.
I have come through that world. And it's funny because a couple years ago, I had an agent come from that world also that came over to Black Label. And when I interviewed her, I made it very clear I was not looking for a coach. One, I knew from the other brokerage that they had terminated her as a coach, and the CEO of that particular company told me it was because she was a disaster as a coach. 2, I look at things from, how I receive value at my level too.
Yeah.
And I would never take advice or coaching from someone who has always done less than
Right.
me. And I'm sorry, but you can take all the John Maxwell coaching courses you want.
Right.
That doesn't mean you've got anything, any experience or anything that is going to drive me as a professional.
Right.
Like, I am only going to take coaching from somebody in the arena doing more than me,
Right.
period.
Right.
And that's why, as a brokerage owner, I do think that I'm more valuable because I'm a producer, because I'm in the arena. I'm not going to teach you some bullshit that is 10 years outdated on who you should be calling and how you should be reaching out to them, because that's how I did it before I was a broker.
Right.
If I'm telling you to do something or to try something, it's because I'm either doing it successfully or, it's something that I have done in the past to get to where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I think that that is the biggest thing that I see. And subsequently, this agent left because I would not allow her into coaching. I saw what I needed to see in her time producing, which was not very much.
Right.
So why would I ever shift you into that position to other agents within my company?
Right.
And the amount of trash she's talked since then is kind of laughable, because now looking on my TikTok, she's apparently one of my biggest fans because the girl checks my TikTok constantly.
Gotta love your haters. They're your biggest fans.
Oh, for sure. But anyway, I just feel one, coming up in real estate, you're always told you should go into coaching or you should join the Brian Buffini, coaching, Tom Ferry, all of these things. And
I think they have a place and a time. I don't think that that's necessarily
I do.
wrong.
But the thing is, I think there's principles that you can
Right.
get from that, and
Right.
from ninja selling and different principles.
But don't make that your whole shtick.
Well, the thing is, you and 500 other agents in your town are making
Yeah.
that your whole shtick. And that's the thing with company coaching. So you've got 20 people in your office visiting the same coach who doesn't produce, doesn't do anything but coach. How different do you think the advice that coach is giving you is from the advice he's giving everybody that you work with?
Right.
So at some point, could one of you not go to coaching? Just you pay for the coaching and then you come and we'll round table and talk it out.
Well, and
Like,
it's
there's
not just that, but like, would have a very hard time trusting that coach because if I'm going to
I
come with an
couldn't.
idea
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to say, my idea is to run an event that has aerial dancers in this 40-foot
Right.
commercial building. That's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to showcase the space. And then they're going to take that idea and then in their head, they can morph it into a couple of other ideas,
Mm-hmm.
but they're pretty similar. And they're going to give it to the other agents because they're like, man, that was a good idea, especially if it made the company money.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it's a snowball. And it's like, how do you trust that person? And so that's, to me, is like a frustrating
Mm-hmm.
thing for coaching that's internal because you're
Right.
competing against other agents in your company and
Mhm.
you're competing against your coach who's on your side because they're making money because of you.
Right. And I just really kind of feel like sometimes coaching is what some agents do to make themselves feel like they're doing the business. Like, oh, I'm in coaching and I'm doing all these proactive things. But if they don't actually do anything innovative or different to get the business, I think in the last few years, a lot of people convinced themselves that the coaching was working.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you had a pulse in the last 2 years, you could get business.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you put yourself out there at all in the last 2 years, you should have been able to close 4 to 6 deals a year,
Yeah.
I would think. So to say that, oh, it was all because of your coaching, was it?
Yeah.
Or are the tidbits that your coach is offering you the same 10 things that you can find for free on YouTube?
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you
There's
want
so
to
much
know
information now.
anything now, go on YouTube. I
Yeah.
think that if you struggle with a certain area, there's a lot of people in our line of work who struggle because they can't talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
They know the topics, they know what they're talking about, they're competent. They can't speak to people.
Yes.
Okay, so get a, like,
Do public speaking.
do
Get out of your
improv.
Yes.
Go to an elementary school and talk to kids. Like,
Do
they're
something.
starry-eyed over anybody that comes in and talks to them. Like, do something to improve that because
Yeah.
that's where your struggle is. You don't need a real estate coach. You're competent
To
on the
role
things.
play with you. Like,
Yeah.
hi, I'm Sally Seller. Like,
I think scripts are the biggest bunch of bullshit on the face of the planet, personally. It just...
and I admit, like, I'm not the best. Like, if you're my client and I know
Mhm.
you and I'm working with you, I'm fine over the phone. But my initial couple contacts, sometimes I still stumble over my words. And I've
Mhm.
been doing this for a
'Cause
long
you're human.
time. But I'm like, I'm so much better in person.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just
That needs
better.
to be your new tagline.
I'm
Kate
so
Marmonti, I'm so much better in person.
Because over the phone, I come off, Right. I come off very business sometimes I recognize I'm interrogating because I'm fact finding and I'm a
Right.
researcher. So it's like, I'm asking the questions about why you're buying, why you're selling, what
Mhm.
are you investing in? Why are you investing in that? And it's just like, I have to stop my brain, slow down. You can ask all the questions, but also breathe.
Right.
And I am when I'm in person, I'm way more personable.
Right.
My body language, everything is so different.
Yeah.
But you don't get that cadence and learning that cadence over the phone
Mhm.
by someone doing scripts or doing, sale cards with you or
Mm-mm.
whatever. One of she's back in DC, but one of the people I remember most, and I think it's so interesting because in DC, oftentimes the people who do outside coaching and outside training for things like leadership and customer service are women.
Mhm.
And her name is Mary Abijay, and she is when you are not allowed to be a me and you in a class where we sit in the back and we're scanning the room and
Mhm.
observing.
Yeah.
There's none of that. I tried that. First day in her class.
Got called out.
She walks back to me and she makes me stand up in front of everybody. And she, like, no warning what we're
Mhm.
doing. And she's like, "Shake my hand." And I'm like, Okay." And so, but her whole thing, and it morphed because less guys started coming throughout the program. Like, it was like a 5-week program. Less guys started coming, whatever. But it was interesting because she just kept
Mhm.
tailoring and tailoring and tailoring. And by the end of it, it was so interesting because by the end of it, we did that same exercise. And it was so interesting because we talked about the power of a handshake
Mhm.
and how much that means in business transactions,
Mhm.
and what, like, a thumb over the hand and the means, and like what kind of control that means, and if you, like, you curl one finger in, like, what all of these things mean as body language. And it's like, stuff like that is not what you're going to get in a
Mm-mm.
coaching
No.
program. You're missing the point. Like,
Right.
you're missing the minutia of, like, actual business. And real estate agents aren't taught to be professionals. They are not
No.
taught to be business people. I was lucky that I worked in corporate America, so I can take some of that and a lot of my corporate speak in my emails to this industry.
Per your request.
Per your last email, please
Yeah.
see the below.
Mhm. Yeah.
Fantastic. But I think that you miss so much because we're taught to just be the vacuum salesman that knocks on the
Mhm.
door when you've got kids and you're making dinner. Like,
Right.
that's what we're taught, and that's what people hate about us.
Mhm.
You're not teaching us to be professional. You're not teaching us.
Or to think on your feet, or to have your own personal style,
No,
or
you're not taught
yeah.
about branding. You're not taught about dressing for success means.
Mhm.
Dressing for success does not mean wearing a 3-piece suit every day.
Right.
Dressing for success means knowing who you are as a person, being confident in that, and dressing to meet somebody that you are trying to
Right. Knowing
attract
who
business.
your audience is.
Yes.
I mean, some days my audience is perfectly fine in my ripped up jeans and Chuck
Yes.
Taylors and a baseball cap, but some days my audience needs me to be dressed like I'm walking into an office building in Austin.
Yeah.
It's and that's, I think, where my biggest, most valuable coaching experience has been. Everybody I know knows I work with a coach. His name is Larry, and he's phenomenal.
I do love Larry.
He's
I only met Larry that one time,
I love Larry.
but I do love Larry.
But what's great about him is he's an executive for a much larger company, not in real estate, not even real estate adjacent, but having been in a leadership role for many, many years and doing coaching for many, many, many industries.
Mhm.
So he does coaching for professional athletes and other executives in his field, and kind of all of these executives across the board. I mean, some people fly in for coaching with him.
Mhm.
Fortunately, I met him through real estate transactions, and he just loves me. So he lets me into his world a little bit. He's pretty particular about who he takes on. I guess he's a glutton for punishment or something. Um, but
You wooed him with your
yes,
with
with
your
my charm.
with your shining personality.
Yes, something like that. But just the perspective on one, being a professional.
Mhm.
You would never go into an attorney's office and expect a scripted dialogue.
No.
And you would feel like they weren't listening to you if you went into your attorney's office and you're telling them all about your needs
Yeah.
and they're spouting off a script, or
Sure.
your CPA or your doctor. Why are we any different?
Right.
So, being able to have a coach who understands a lot of different business styles and a lot of different, not even just sales, because as much as I know that we do real estate sales, I don't consider myself a salesperson.
Right.
I would say that I do marketing before I do sales,
Yeah.
because when I hear, "Oh, I'm a salesperson," I'm like, that's trying to convince somebody to buy something they don't necessarily
Need or
want.
want.
Yeah, real estate, I feel like people know if they need to buy or sell a home.
Yes.
That is already done. I don't have to sell you on whether you're going to make that move.
Right.
So it's just a different mindset, and it's somebody that I can look at. Like I said, if you've done less than me in whatever field you're in, or just in general, like if you're just a professional coach and there's no and there,
Yeah.
and I run this company and this company, and I've accomplished this. It doesn't have to be I've sold $100 million in real estate. I couldn't care less, because half the time those people that tell you that are rocking a team that's like 20 people deep.
Yeah.
You didn't do it on your own. Y'all did it.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But just having somebody that I can look at and know that they've accomplished so much, and these are the principles that they used. The same principles of business can be applied across most businesses
Yeah.
and most interpersonal relationships. So just coaching on different personality styles and business styles and, ideas on what this industry uses successfully to market to their potential client that I could kind of use for mine has been career changing
Yeah.
and just mindset changing.
Yes.
And I think that coaches in our real estate bubble are all trained to think that your goal is the same
Yeah.
and just to get to X number on the sales chart.
Yeah.
That's not always my goal.
Right.
Some years it is just to push to see if I can make it to that number. Some years my goal is completely not sales related.
Yeah.
So I feel like when they're tied to your sales, it's easy to give up on you helping reach your actual goal
Right.
when it's not going to impact their wallet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think the people who are some of the best coaches that are being outside of our industry, that have been wildly successful in multiple things. I think the other thing is the humble factor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in a sales world, whatever you want to call real estate in relation, because people put us in the same bucket as like car people and retail and whatever. At the end of the day, there's 3 major things that I feel that real estate agents are responsible for. Marketing is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Customer service is the second one, and that's a big one. And then the third one is professionalism. And it is something that severely lacks and shows in our industry. And I think finding someone who is wildly successful but is humble can teach you more about life and about being a better human, and that makes you better in business. Like Larry is, so I've only met Larry that one time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I helped you at the Parade of Homes, and I wasn't like, you told me Larry was going to be there, but I didn't know what Larry looked like. I didn't even know what he looked like.
I didn't know what a Larry was.
I didn't know what a Larry was. You said Larry's going to be there, and I knew Larry was your coach, and I was like, cool, Larry's going to be there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about Larry.
That was my way of telling you, soak it up.
Yeah.
Whatever he's giving, just soak it up.
And we were sitting in the primary bedroom, and we were just chatting. And the thing I loved about Larry was the soothingness of his voice. He's so calm. And as a redhead and as an Enneagram 8 and as all the things that I am, we get passionate, and we get passionate, we get loud, and we talk fast, and we're heavy hitters, and that's who we are. And I don't know that I was nervous, but I didn't want to let you down. And so I was like, holy crap, I'm in like there's builders that need help here, and I've been asked to come. It's a huge honor. I do not want to fuck this up. And like, again, didn't know what a Larry was. And Larry just started, and my hands were sweaty. I was sitting there. I was so nervous. And Larry was just, he was like a breath of fresh air. He was just calm. He was calm. He asked me some stuff about myself, and whether he cared or not, and he probably did genuinely care, he made it like a calm environment, and it was a soothing environment. And, so you need that in a coach. You need someone that is opposite of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my father-in-law does coaching, and he was wildly successful in his career. Like, I'm in awe of who they are and, how they've done things. And he coaches. And there's a part of me that's like, I would love to be on a fly on the wall for his coaching and his in his consulting stuff, but he could never be my coach. Our personalities are too similar. So when I get upset about something, he gets upset about something because he's matching my energy.
Right.
I need someone to be the opposite of my energy in those moments. And there's times where, like, I do need that coach to match my energy. But for the most part, you need a coach to look at things from the other side, right? And I think sometimes that might be more, I mean, it doesn't help. I'm his daughter-in-law, so he's going to have that, like, protective wing.
Yeah.
But he's so smart, and it's so interesting when we can have snippets of conversation where I can get that, like, those pieces of knowledge, because he's so good at what he does and what he's done. And, it's amazing how he's raised. I mean, all of the kids are so vastly different. And not that my mother-in-law hasn't contributed, but, like, they're so humble about, like, just everything. And, I think Will and I were, like, well into dating. And I found out that they, like, lived in Ireland and England. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, huh? And I'm like, I lived in the same house since I was 1. Like, cool.
You're so worldly.
I'm so worldly.
Yeah.
So I, and just to hear about their experiences and just the differences, it's just like
Different perspective.
Yes, and it's a beautiful thing to have your mind be blown like that, to have a deeper and different understanding. Because a coach should not just be business transactional. A coach should be someone that can connect with you on that personal level, because no matter what they tell you, business and personal should be separate. It can't be.
No.
It's impossible to be.
We're not robots. This isn't that show Severance.
Yeah.
Like, they do collide sometimes. And
well, and your business personality is not vastly different. It's sharpened in a way for that skill set that you're practicing in that moment. But your personality is not gone.
In our business, we are helping people with something that is deeply personal to them.
Yes.
So, whenever we see them out, we're both in, I would say, medium-sized cities. And you're going to probably run into that person.
Yeah.
And so at some point in our business, you have to be personal, or it's one of those things that you're going to be chasing referrals forever.
Yeah.
Because you made it all business. They don't know you as a person, so you're not the friend that they naturally think of.
Right.
When somebody brings up, hey, I'm looking for a realtor.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a mistake not to think that business is personal for our line of work. There's a lot of careers where you just leave it at the office and it stays there, and that's cool, but ours isn't one. But I think that Larry, I think he's probably the only man on the planet who, when I'm riled up about something, can tell me to calm down and it doesn't just piss me off. Like, most men I've ever known, whether this was my own father or my husband, my ex-husband.
Never say relax.
No, don't tell me just relax or just calm down. Like, that's the kiss of death for you, because you've just pissed me off for the next, 8 hours.
Yeah.
Just with that 2 words. But he has turned into more of a full life coach. I've cried more in front of Larry, I think, than I have in front of my husband. Every single time I go to coaching, I cry about something. It is
we're not, and you
so
and I,
freaking ridiculous.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I get so mad at myself. I'm like, okay, today I'm not going to cry.
Yeah,
and then it's
you and I are not criers.
No,
we tend to bottle stuff up, and it's just like you hit an emotional cap. So it's like, at some level, at least you have Larry, right? So you can
and I'm
let it out.
a frustration crier.
Yes, that's me too.
Like, if I'm frustrated about something or just angry about something, I will cry. Like, if I'm upset,
I do sad cry, but
Yeah,
it's like
every now and then,
but
but
it's like my dad or
yeah.
like I really miss Tara.
Mhm. Aw.
But frustration crying. And then it's
Yeah.
like when I frustration cry at home, if Will catches me in that rare moment that I'm frustration crying, he wants to like hug me and I'm like,
Yeah.
don't touch me. Like this is not the moment.
Yeah.
You are not my hero. You're not a
Yeah,
knight in
I'm
shining
even less
armor.
cuddly than normal right now.
Yeah, like because vulnerable is not comfortable. It's not comfortable for
No.
anybody, but
And
it's
that's
really
something
not
he's
comfortable.
really had to work with me on.
Yeah.
Because as a brokerage owner, for a while, I would take it personally when people would leave or, I guess, not work out the way I thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
And, he just kind of had to reframe the way that I'm thinking. And I don't always think it's, they just couldn't hang. Sometimes it's our personalities are totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Some people need that more like cuddly, person that's going to baby them. And I think those are a lot of times the people that, like I said previously, prefer a comfortable lie.
Right.
Like if you're asking me how to help you get somewhere or for advice and you don't want to listen to the actual truth, you're asking me to comfortably lie to you so you can feel better about what you're not doing and the results you're not getting, I'm probably not the one.
Yeah.
Like, because I will get very bored very quickly. It'll be very obvious that I've kind of given up on you.
Yeah.
And that's just a natural thing. And so he really helped me see that as much as business is personal, it's not always a personal thing about me. It's just our businesses grew in different ways.
Right.
And they needed to go either, do their business at a different place, or a lot of times they just kind of fizzle out of the business. I'm a fairly intense kind of person.
Yeah.
When I'm in like work mode. And I think that sometimes people know that they're not going to match that energy. And that's cool. Like it doesn't have to be for everybody. It's, so.
And sometimes it's got a lifespan, right? Like,
oh, yeah. So many relationships have an end point.
And it's not that that it's going to be that in the beginning, right? So like that happened to me recently.
Mm-hmm.
And like sitting back and reflecting and all of the things, like internalizing and reflecting, it's just no longer did the energy match. Like I'm an intense person. I'm a workaholic. I love what I do. So so when I'm passionate, I'm all in.
Right.
And I'm all in on working. And it just came to the point where, and you don't realize it until you step back, like energies were not aligning. The vibe was not aligning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. It's how you handle that situation moving forward, right? So like there's no ill will, there's nothing. It's just we needed to be in different spaces, like completely different spaces. And, and I'm going to continue to be who I am. And I'm going to continue to grow in the way that I want to grow. And it's okay that that person is not the same. It's okay that that person is doing what they're doing on their own and, all the happiness in the world to that person. But I'm not going to change and I'm not going to diminish my light because we no longer vibe. Like, it's very unfortunate the way that things played out at the end, but I don't know how you make those separations like great. Like they're always hard in one way or the other.
Well, and I think again it comes back to, are there two people involved that are willing to have kind of the uncomfortable truth
and have an adult conversation
versus pretending things are, just fine until you eventually just ghost each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think coaching is the same way. What coaching you need early on may be totally different than what you need later down the road. And that's probably a bit of where I'm at. Like early on, and I started real estate when we were doing cold calls and all of that stuff. And that's just kind of what was drilled into me. And I think that that's the problem is a lot of real estate coaches have the same like 5 tools.
Yeah.
And it's, which order they teach them to you in can sometimes be different. But at the end of the day, if you really look at the clients of a certain coach, it's all regurgitated garbage.
Mhm.
Could you not get that on YouTube?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I think now at this point in my life, I have to have a coach where I feel like I'm getting something different. And as soon as I feel like I'm getting the same advice that everybody else is getting, I fade out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I wanted the same thing as everybody else, I wouldn't be paying you
Yeah.
money. I would just get a therapist like a normal person.
Yeah.
Like if I just needed somebody to like pump me up and tell me, "You're doing great, sweetie," like Kris
Yeah.
Kardashian or something, like,
Yeah.
I need the coach that will tell me an uncomfortable truth.
Yeah.
And Larry is great at telling me uncomfortable things about myself, but in ways that I feel a little more comforted by.
Well, that you
He
can
can
that
make
you can
bad
hear.
news sound like great news.
Yeah, but it's also like hearing it and accepting it.
Mhm.
Like that's the other thing. Like you have to find someone that when they're telling you something, constructive criticism, I don't care who you are, it's hard to hear. I mean,
Yeah.
it just is. And it takes a lot of adulting and it takes a lot of reflection to be able to take criticism and not immediately feel defensive. But it also depends on that person's delivery.
Right.
And I think that there is a fine art in being able to deliver constructive criticism without feeling
Like you're bashing somebody.
right. And I can probably say this is like an easy example, right? So like when we first started working with Nate,
Mhm.
dear bless that man's heart for dealing with me in voiceovers because it would just be like awful. Because it's like that scripted thing, right? Like I
Yeah.
wanted to have it's like when you and I started the podcast, like we had this
Yeah.
whole thing of notes that
We had a plan.
We had a plan.
Yeah.
And I had a script and I'm gonna do it this way.
Yeah.
And we tried that and I told Nate I'm gonna script it. I got what I'm gonna say and I started it and I sounded like a robot.
Mhm.
And Nate was like, we're not doing that. Like he was like, I'm gonna ask you a question, answer the question. And I got better as time went on, but he was like he would play it back for me and be like, you sound
Mhm.
like you don't sound confident. You don't sound like you know what you're talking about. You sound like you're trying to read out of a book. Like you're not being you.
Right.
And that was hard because, I wasn't used to being on camera. I'm used to being the control freak behind the camera, right?
And that's
like
been such a new thing for our industry also is,
Yeah.
that hard shift to video.
yes.
I feel like it kind of came almost out of nowhere, like around the time of the pandemic, because people
We're
were
at
so
home.
isolated, they needed to see your face. So
Right.
you had to start being comfortable being on camera and speaking
Being
on camera
uncomfortable.
and being picked apart on camera,
Mhm.
usually by yourself first,
Yes.
and then like worrying what other people are going to think. So
Yeah.
it's terrible.
It is, but it's like it's all in the delivery, right?
Yeah.
Like and like he's like a Larry personality. Like he's a
Mhm.
soothing personality that's like you're doing something really uncomfortable and you're feeling super vulnerable, but it's going to come out well.
Mhm.
And so there's that part of it that makes a big difference,
Mhm.
So I think that's a huge piece and it's hard to find
Mhm.
a coach that's just not in it for the money. It's hard to find somebody that is the person you need.
Right.
Because a lot of times when you're looking into coaching, you don't really know what you need. You just know you need something.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's funny too because like last night I'm like an old lady, so I was watching Family Feud.
It's okay. I
And
really wanted to watch the Wheel of Fortune Celebrity.
and Steve interviews the people and asks them what they do for a living. And she goes, "I'm a life and relationship coach." And he goes, "But you're single?" She goes, "Yeah." And he made, how he always makes his
Yeah.
face. And that's the thing. It's like, would you take marriage advice from somebody that's never been married?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knows how frustrating life can be being married unless they've been married. I don't care how
Yeah.
many long-term relationships you've been in or whatever.
Or how many marriages married people you've talked to. Like,
Yeah,
that's
no.
the thing in Roman Catholic. Like, you're supposed to take pre-cana, which is with a priest
Mm-hmm.
who's celibate, and they're not allowed to get married. And I'm like,
How is this making any sense?
which
Yeah.
was like another whole reason why I was like, this is not this is not for me. So when we did our pre-marriage counseling, it was in the Episcopalian faith, but it was like, he's married, he has kids, he had similar things that like
Right.
happened in my past, like in my history of my life, that affects me as a human today.
Mm-hmm.
That as another husband can say to Will, look, these things are going to never go away,
Mm-hmm.
and this is how we deal with it. And I think that's so powerful. There has to be that connection there.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's like getting gentle parenting tips from someone who does not have a feral 3-year-old toddler who, is who he is. Bless his soul. He's a force to be reckoned with. I birthed myself in a man. And and I mean, God bless him, but he's, he can be a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he is very adamant. Like James, like he's a lot of times he's like perfect. Like this morning, I was like, buddy, I'm throwing your socks down the stairs. I said, can you put them on? Yes, ma'am. And I was like, are your shoes on? Yes, ma'am. I was like, can you get your backpack out? Yes, ma'am. Just on it. And Everett, I'm like, Everett, we have to put your shoes on. And he's like running around the house with his pants at his ankles because he's like, I have to poop. I'm like, what is happening in my life?
Yeah. No. I feel like that would give me anxiety.
It does. But I mean, how am I supposed to take gentle parenting advice from someone that doesn't live in the same world? It's like, I'm not going to tell a homeschooling mom how to homeschool her kids because I do not have the fortitude
I just
to
feel
do
like
that.
gentle parenting as a whole is a total bullshit thing that's been made up because this world is not gentle. So
No.
who the hell are you raising these kids to deal with as adults if everything about their life is so gentle and comfortable and we want them to feel butterflies and rainbows every time they, interact with somebody? Like, that's not what life is.
Yeah.
So and I think that same thing can be said with coaching. If you have a coach that is always pumping you up, like, and telling you how great you are all the time, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, there are some things that Larry, and he doesn't tell me I'm bullshit, but I can look at his face sometimes and he's like, I'm not going to buy into the lies that you're feeding yourself right now about this. And I'm like, alrighty then.
Yeah.
Like, he's unmanipulatable.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of intriguing because as women, like, there's a lot of men who are easy to, like, kind of pull in under our spell, if you will. Like,
yeah.
But he kind of sees through when I'm trying to even manipulate myself into thinking a certain way.
And I would say that's a superpower that most women have. Like, we manipulate ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, we gaslight ourselves.
But
like,
for men, it's called strategy. But for women, it's manipulation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. But
totally different vocabulary, same damn thing.
Yeah. Double-edged sword every day.
Yeah.
But I think that's so vital in so much of what coaching is. And I mean, I think that if you want to be a recruiting coach or you want to be an internal coach, I think that there's a time and a place for that. And I think it works for some personalities. It doesn't work for all personalities. And I think I would challenge every internal coach to take external coaching that is not in your industry, that is about leadership, that is about customer service, that is about something more than what you're doing. Because if you're not practicing what you're preaching, are you offering true value? And I know we're probably going to get a lot of haterade on this topic because there's a lot of people who have these types of coaching and they feel that it's great for them.
And there's brokerages that rely on people being bought into the idea of their coach.
And I feel like there's, and even like referral industries that we get, like we have to be on, when we get into some referrals, like they ask you to be part of a call or do a business call once a month. But typically those business calls are like, did you close one? Did you do it? How you doing? Like, have you talked to that person? Like, it's not it's not forward thinking. It's not outside of the box.
Mhm.
So I would have to venture to say that so much of coaching is recognize where you are in your business, recognize what you want out of your business, and is that coaching really adding any value to you? And I think that's
Right.
something that has to be reassessed, if not if not like yearly. I would recommend probably doing that quarterly, because if there's a
Oh,
way
for
for you to
sure.
get out of that coaching program, because it's not serving
Mhm.
you,
If it's
then be
not
out.
evolving and growing with your business,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be a good fit. But, I mean, if you look at a lot of the recruiting and retention coaches, if you look at the agents with experience in that same office, because oftentimes these are the big box brokerages, right? If you look at the agents within that office who are experienced, who are doing well, many, many times they are not using that office coach.
Right.
They are not using somebody internal. They are
Right.
paying somebody externally
Right.
for coaching. So that should tell you about that coach's ability to grow with your business and to
Right.
serve your business as you hit these
Yeah.
upper levels. So, I mean, it's kind of like I tell agents about luxury home sales. So, it's a lot easier to coach down to a beginner than it is to coach up, right? So, if you are looking for a coach and you see that they are coaching some of the people you look up to the most in your industry or in any others, chances are they can coach down to whatever level you're at.
Mhm.
Even if you're a beginner or whatever, I would much rather invest in the coach that is coaching higher than where I'm at currently
Right.
than, okay, well, they're just the coach for the newbies.
Right.
Yay, you hit 2 million in sales this year. Like, no, I don't need the coach that'll push me to 2 million.
Right.
I mean, I'll be on the couch like forever.
Yeah.
You know, I need the coach who's like, okay, what is your actual goal?
Yeah.
Like, and why is that your goal?
Yeah.
What is important to you about that number or item or whatever being your goal?
Right.
And I don't think many coaches do that.
No, I don't think that they do. And I don't think that they know how to dig deeper.
Mm-mm.
So I'd say probably finding, if you're brand new, those internal coaches have a place and time.
If you're brand new, go on YouTube.
Yeah.
It is free and you will get, I can promise you, some of the same coaching advice.
Yes.
You know, follow 5 or 10 different people that are coaches. Oftentimes they're handing the knowledge out for free online. So
Yeah.
if you are brand new, go that route until you really need
Yeah.
the like paid coach. Otherwise, find a good room.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean a group of people, peers in your industry, other business professionals, whatever, that are inspiring to you and that can teach you something for free, whether that's a weekly lunch, monthly lunch, whatever. Like, I am not a believer in networking groups at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not. I think they're bullshit. But for the most part.
Yeah.
But like, if you can find your people for free while you're on the come up, do that.
Yeah.
But I just, yeah, the coaching I think is a scam
I
in a
think-
lot of ways.
I do too. I think until you hit that, until you figure out who you are and who you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
that, and you're not going to find that out day one in whatever, it doesn't matter whatever industry you're in. You're not going to find that out. Until you find out who you are and who you want to be, you're not going to be able to find the correct coach for you.
Mm-hmm.
And typically that coach is not knocking at your door saying, hey, join the coaching program.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, I see your goals
This
slipped
month,
this month.
50% off coaching.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got to
There's-
discount your coaching,
There's no gatekeeping. There's no like, oh,
Right.
look at my free guide. Like
Mhm.
there's more to it than that. There's more that you have to dig deep into, and they're not searching you out, you're searching them out.
Mhm.
And I think that's where there's a game changer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I kind of want my coach like I want my hairstylist or like my plastic surgeon. Like, if I call you and I can immediately get in the same day because you don't have other appointments, I'm kind of like, you may not be the best at what you do.
Yeah.
Because the best at what they do tend
They're
to be busy. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like agents with showings. The really producing agents may not be able to drop it all in 15 minutes and show up at a house to show you a property. You may have to make an appointment for the next day,
Yeah.
or with their assistant or whatever. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I kind of look at if you're overly available for new clients, because I feel like new clients especially take a lot longer. I mean, that should be a couple hour session at least to get to know who you are.
Yeah.
And not just, yeah, come on in at 12. No, like, paperwork in advance. No, like, disc testing or anything to kind of get to know personality type before I sit in your chair.
Right.
I'm a big believer in the testing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how correct it is a lot of the times,
Yeah.
considering how off the wall some of the questions are.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you and I are very similar. We're the same Enneagram. We're the same. Are you a high D on the disc? Yeah. Same Z's. And I think that was one of the most kind of telling things that Larry did to me, or not to me, but really for me, because it benefited me. He sent my entire team a test about me as a leader. And whenever they submitted the results, they came in anonymously. So at the end, I was able to see what all of my team members thought about everything from my professionalism to leadership style to communication, everything. And some people didn't expand in the text box where they had the opportunity, and some wrote a whole lot. And so seeing what people think about you when you don't know it's coming from them as a leader or as a business person can be a lot. Like, I almost wish that I could just say, hey, can you send this to all of my clients?
Yeah.
Yearly, so that I don't know which client it's coming from, but then I'm getting the actual feedback.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
Yeah.
But it's also eye-opening because I'm
Yes.
okay, yeah, I could probably tweak that.
I mean, one of the biggest things that in one of the leadership trainings I took in DC, one of the things that they said, if it doesn't offend you, it's not going to change you. And a lot of the times when you're reading your personality test or an anonymous result like that, often it does you're like, that isn't me. I don't do that. I'm not like that. And it's eye-opening because it's especially when someone else is saying it about you, it's like, oh,
yeah,
huh.
Because perception is reality. And if they're perceiving you that way, but I will caveat this and say, in most instances other than social media.
Yes.
Because social media, people will say all kinds of crap about you for no apparent reason at all, other than they have nothing else going on, I guess, but to try to tear people down. So I would say if you're offended by something somebody says on social media, just trash can that.
Yeah.
But
it's your surrounding people.
But people that actually know you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think coaching as a whole is an interesting concept. I think it can be extraordinarily helpful, but it's about finding the person that's right for you. And I think that I don't think that internal coaching and mentoring programs are it. And I will say that being from DC and the last job that I worked at, that's something I respected extraordinarily, is that they often pushed us to do external coaching and they would pay for it, and they would be they would help us find it. And even if it was little seminars and stuff, they were very, very big on that. And that creates a lot of growth.
Well, now I feel like the opportunities for finding outside coaching are so much greater because everybody's so used to Zoom.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, utilizing Google and finding different coaches from across the country, really, and then YouTube stalking them or whatever you need to do to figure out, okay, is this person maybe going to be a match for what I need help with? Because everybody's needs are different. Like we said, some can just be they have issues with interpersonal skills and they need help with that. And some just have that imposter syndrome all the time where, no matter how competent they are, they think they don't deserve to be in the room. So it really is a matter of figuring out what you need coaching on, and then finding the best coach for that.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, no matter what any brokerage tells you, their coaching is not free.
Yeah.
It comes with strings or it comes with money out of your check. It
Mhm.
comes at a cost.
Yep.
Nobody's going to give it to you for free.
Yeah.
So if you are thinking that, you are lying to yourself.
Mhm.
And so if you're going to make that investment in yourself, I think it's wonderful. I think, one, it's a tax write-off. In our industry, that's important.
Mhm.
And two, I think that if you're going to make the investment, make it with the right person.
Right.
You know, I mean,
And
take the time
it
to
should
do
be a
your
vetted
diligence.
yeah, it should be
Yeah,
a vetted process. There shouldn't just be like a, "Hey, I want coaching," and they say, "Great, sign on the dotted line,
right.
pay me my installment."
Yeah.
There should be not just one, but there should be a
Mhm.
few fact-finding, few interviews, like, there should be more than just,
Mhm.
"I want you as my coach." They might not want you as a client.
Yeah.
So, you shouldn't just try and find one, you need to find a few, and you need to have multiple conversations.
Mhm.
And I think that it can be a complete game changer in your business when you're ready. And
Right.
it's not something and you might not know when you're ready, but you will figure it out. And it's
Mhm.
like and a lot of times people try and do it when they level up or they just are trying to reassess or rebrand or whatever.
Mhm.
You'll know when you are really ready for coaching. It might be something that you're like, I'm thinking about it, but you'll know when you're really ready for it.
Well, and some people may not need coaching. They may need to hire a marketing firm.
Yeah.
Or, if you really look at what your needs are that you're struggling with, it may not really be personal coaching that's needed.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because some people, they just don't get the marketing piece.
Right.
Okay, cool. Leverage out. You're already selling well. When you get people, you just need the help over here. A coach is not going to help you
Right.
find the time to do your social media or whatever. So, really being honest with yourself about what it is that you're expecting this coach to be able to do, I
Right.
think is like step number one.
Right.
Because some coaches are going to look at that and be like, I'm not the one. Like, if somebody came to me, one, I am not a coach. I don't want to be a coach. Can I give people good advice? Sometimes. And I can give advice on what works for me, but I find that probably 80% of the time people are just assholes and they want
Mhm.
to ask for the advice and then not do anything with it.
Right.
So, I've learned not to waste my breath. If it
Yeah.
might be my last one, I'm not going to waste it on somebody that doesn't want to actually do anything.
Yeah.
And I think if the coach that you're looking at is not also vetting you,
Yes.
then they're wasting their time. And you've
Right.
got to wonder what's really in it for them. Are they just about the money or,
Right.
do they actually want to see you get to the next level or whatever your goal is?
Right. So, on to the next.